Hi, I'm Dr. Victor Dolan. This is Good Health Naturally. We'll be talking with the CERT team from Staten Island today. We're looking to recruit. There's some nice classes coming up where you can be better prepared. Classes that are going to be taught here on Staten Island in May this year. And the CERT team on Staten Island is looking for members to help the community. We'll start right on my left. My friend Steve will introduce himself, his position with the CERT team. Thank you for coming down today, Steve.
Thanks, Doc. Appreciate it. My name's Steve Clohessy, and I'm the team chief for the Port Richmond Community Emergency Response Team. And we've been active on Staten Island for about 15 years now, and hopefully we can continue this for many years to come.
And Ed?
Hi, my name is Ed Arale. I'm Liaison Officer for Port Richmond Community Emergency Response Team. And I've been with the team since the beginning. And what we could use is a lot more people like you out there to come join our team.
And on your left.
Hi, I'm Joseph Pupello. I'm with New York City Emergency Management. We're the managing agency of the CERT program in New York City.
Now, you're the managing agency, but these guys are volunteers, and it's open to volunteers. And as we said just a minute ago, this May, there's some training. Talk about the training. How long, where, when, how?
So the New York City CERT basic training, as we call it, is 10 sessions. It's 2 days a week for 5 to 6 weeks, depending on holidays and availability of the space. We are having one in Staten Island in May. It'll be May, June. Location is not set yet, but this is the number one team, the only team on Staten Island. That training, which you're looking to get about 30 people into that training so that they could join the team and then learn even more from the team once they get there.
Now, the New York City EM CERT training is, there could be people from all 5 boroughs coming to Staten Island for that training.
Correct.
Because that training is applicable to all 5 boroughs. And then, but it's on Staten Island, so I'll find my camera and look at the camera, which I tell everybody not to do. But selfishly, for your own preparation for hard times, a catastrophe, a disaster, you should take the class, talk about go bags and being ready for blackouts and fires and floods and whatever can happen on Staten Island. But also to serve your community. Join the CERT team, help with search and rescue, or help with Sandy, which happened, unfortunately, a few years ago. Or the CERT training even covers what to do if you're in a subway. If something happened in a subway, would you know what to do? The CERT team training, basic training, can make you better prepared to withstand all kinds of emergencies and crises and catastrophes. So with that, so you're hoping to get 30, 40 people to the training on Staten Island in May. So you guys have a website where I could sign up for that?
So you can go to nyc.gov/CERT, and you can find information about what's taught, as you mentioned, subways, what to do in a high-rise fire. We do fire safety. We do traffic management is something, especially on Staten Island, that's a big role for the volunteers. And it's taught by the fire department, active fire department, and NYPD. But yeah, you can definitely go on the website, check it out. You can also email us at CERT, C-E-R-T, @oem.nyc.gov.
Okay, now, I don't know if we mentioned this show. This training is
Free.
Free.
Yes.
So whether you're community-minded or just looking to be prepared for yourself, for your family, it's well worth the training. So, Steve, talk to us about the Staten Island, the Port Richmond CERT. What is it? What do you do? And give us a personal account of some story that touched you or was exciting or had a good ending, of course.
Absolutely. Well, just to clarify some of the things that Joe had said, The sessions are twice a week. The sessions are 2.5 hours each. It's not 2 complete days. So for those of you that were
sorry.
Afternoon or
Evenings.
evening?
Evenings.
Yeah,
Okay.
they're usually in the evening, and after the 10 weeks, it culminates in a graduation, usually at, I think it's 1 PP, correct?
No, it's at New York City Emergency Management.
At Cadman Plaza,
In
okay.
Brooklyn, downtown Brooklyn.
Okay.
Okay.
So for those of you that are interested, just so
But
that you
these
know.
classes are going to be given on Staten Island this
The
time,
class
right?
will be on
Okay.
Staten Island,
Right.
yes.
So it's an easy commute, an easy get-to for us on
Yes.
Staten Island. We don't have to cross the bridge.
Yep, absolutely.
So tell
So
us.
I've been with the CERT team since its inception. I was one of the founding members 15 years ago. We started out with 12 people in the basement of a church, and we've kind of expanded from there through a lot of uses of our own personal resources, a lot of money out of our own pocket that was able to help us move along with some equipment, some training props, and things like that. So. Some of us had gone on to be trainers, certified trainers for different disciplines, of which we pass along to our team. And we actually got our first real test of how we do, because this is one of those things that you train for the worst day of your life, so to speak, and you hope it never comes. So a lot of people get disheartened because you go into trainings, it's a death by PowerPoint sometimes. Everybody's like, oh, we got to listen to Steve speak again. But we happen to get to use this during Sandy. We kind of monitored everything. We have an emergency operations trailer that one of the Gold Star posts allow us to use their property in the back. And at that point, we were monitoring a lot of the weather and a lot of the different situations. And we had decided to go out the day before. And we went out in our trucks and our vehicles and started to survey different areas and watch how the shore fronts were being affected by the wind and the rising tides and stuff like that. So we were out the day before, the day during. I know it's a little on the crazy side, but we had folks out there. And then we were out for almost 4 weeks after Sandy. We did a lot of recovery efforts in the Cedar Grove area, Midland Beach, Oakwood Beach, Tottenville, where we were moving goods from the evacuation centers. We would pile our trucks filled with the goods and then move them out to the folks that were kind of waterlocked or landlocked because of the water, where they couldn't get to those areas. So we were bringing all of that stuff to them. Then a couple of our members that worked for the city of New York opened up the Disaster Recovery Center in Midland Beach, and then we moved on to Tottenville. So there we were involved in a lot of the search efforts for the folks that were affected in the Tottenville Beach area, where that father and daughter were lost through the house that was swept away. So we were involved in the search efforts to locate those folks. The same with the efforts for the woman and her 2 children that were in the car on 4th and Capadano Boulevard. So, you don't want to look at the outcome. You have to be prepared for that. It takes a certain mindset to get into, but it was amazing to the leadership of the team to actually watch how you took the folks that you had trained up, and you've only seen them working in a controlled environment, to where you're taking them out there and they're absolutely following everything that you said you need to do and the trainings that you gave them. And it was...
That's why that repetitive training is important, too.
It absolutely is. And I got to say, we were so surprised and so proud of the team. It was amazing. Since that time, we've done a few other things. PD reaches out to us occasionally for missing person searches. We've developed, or Eddie's actually developed a good working relationship to where we're notified a little bit earlier. A lot of times we're notified 3, 4, 5 days into the missing person, and it's kind of difficult to try and, to lock yourself around somebody that's missing for 4 or 5 days. We had one where we actually searched for this woman who we were notified immediately. We hit social media. We had people all over that were saying, oh, we spotted her here, we spotted her there, and we found her within
2.5 hours?
Yeah, something like that. So, incorporating social media into our search criteria was amazing. That was the first time we really utilized that technology. And it really worked. Do all the outcomes work out that way? No, they don't. It's unfortunate. But, you know, these are some of the ones that we are very proud of, that we look and say, listen, this is what we do. This is how we do it. This is why we do it. We are specifically here for the people of Staten Island. We want to be able to give them enough tools in their toolbox so that they can save themselves. I'm not worried about them coming to save me. I'm worried about them saving themselves. So if they can take care of their family and their immediate family around them, and then if they can find their way through to making them safe and then coming out and giving me some of their time, some of their expertise, that is a wonderful thing. So I encourage everybody on Staten Island, anybody that's interested in taking this class, to come out and get the training, and then you make the decision after you get the training if this is something that you really want to do. We're here. We do ask for a commitment. If you really follow through with that commitment, believe me, it would be an experience that you will not forget. So.
Well, I know I can attest. I can thank you guys for your work during Sandy. As you know, we lost our house.
Yes.
And within my neighborhood, within view or very short working distance, 5 people died that night in our neighborhood. So, and I know that CERT was out there before, during, and after, and you were at my house. So thank you for your service that night. And, you know, people don't realize how important disaster preparedness is. We lost a lot of documents and pictures and things that are unretrievable, you know, and a go bag, a ready bag, stuff now stored in the cloud or whatever. Right. You know, and even though I had taken the class after 9/11, I didn't do my due diligence. So I would ask people, I would, you know, try to convince people to go to the training in May for your own selfish self-interest, to take care of yourself and your family, which would lighten the load on the first responders and second responders, but also then to be able to help as these people did during Sandy, which was certainly a disaster unthought of on Staten Island and elsewhere in the city of New York. Ed, do you have a good story or a story that stands out in your head over the years that you participated in?
There's been a whole bunch. A lot of them successful, some not. But with the training that you get, all right, you're able to handle it, all right? That's the best part about it, is the training, because you're going to use it. You're going to use it 24/7. You're going to use it in your daily life,
Right.
Okay? And that's the best part of it, right? You know, you're going to get that information. You're going to be able to, you know, drive down the street and say, hey, something ain't right. There's a limb hanging from that tree over the roadway. Or
There's a wire down.
there's a wire down.
Yep.
And you'll be able to identify that wire
Yes.
through the training.
The different layers
Okay.
on the pole.
Right.
Right.
Yep.
Okay.
That
So
people
this
don't
way,
realize.
you don't. If it's an old phone wire, through your training, one that AT&T doesn't use anymore, Verizon doesn't use anymore, it's hanging across the road. You could pull it up, tie it around the pole. You know what it is. That's after you're trained.
Yes.
But you'll know which ones to say, hey, wait a minute, the
Uh-oh.
primary's on fire,
Yes.
okay, and you'll know what your actions are, what you're going to do. All right, you also get training in terrorism awareness. All right, so now you're aware that, hey, wait a minute, like you see on TV all the time now with the ads, you see something, say something, somebody leaves a bag there. All right, you know, you'll know what to do when it hits you, you know, when you come upon something in your daily life. All right,
Yes.
One thing we on the team do is we get CPR training. We do AED training. We did another one, added another one last year, Stop the Bleed.
Yes.
All right, which is major.
I just refreshed my EMT.
Okay, it's major. That is such a benefit to have that knowledge. Okay,
Narcan.
we have Narcan training. So if somebody, and it's numerous team members of ours have utilized it while they were out, just doing shopping. Okay, these are the benefits that you get out of the training. And like they both said, and you said, all right, it's for your family first, then your neighbors, and then we go out.
Right.
I don't remember if this is part of the CERT training, but one thing that's important, one thing that they stressed over and over again, I'm an EMT for 30 years, rode a volunteer ambulance. One of the reasons why I went through the first or second CERT training a long time ago. But you don't want to become a casualty yourself.
Right.
If you can take care of yourself and your family and your neighborhood, and that area is safe, then CERT team members or police or fire don't have to be so concerned. If this area is safe, then we can go over to this area, which is all screwed up and really needs help too. It helps conserve resources, you know. Plus, if you know how to handle it for yourself and your family, you know, it spills out to your neighbors. You know, I shouldn't say selfish. It's not that selfish, because helping yourself helps everybody else. And if your neighbors see you know what to do, they'll come to you for help too. You know, it's a great program. Yeah. Staten Island, you should come out May and sign up for the CERT training so they can help your community and help yourself. Any stories that you've seen that you'd like to talk about?
I mean, so as I mentioned earlier, New York City Emergency Management manages the program citywide. So there are things happening in every borough, similar to what's happening. I know missing persons has been something that many of the Brooklyn teams actually working. There was actually an instance, I believe, about a year and a half ago, where the Brooklyn teams were actually in contact with the Staten Island teams. Because of a missing person. They weren't sure if they were in Staten Island or Brooklyn. I believe they ended up in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
But that's just another example of, although the Staten Island team is the team on Staten Island, this is a citywide program, and they are all connected. And there are situations where they have to come together, and that missing persons was a very good example of that. And that was through many, many districts, actually. That was through Brooklyn 10, 11, 12, 13, and Staten Island. So that was a really great example to see how that worked out, and everyone speaking and making sure that NYPD was working with the right people, and you know, the right leads were talking to each other, and we were there in the middle. I mean, there were evenings where I was speaking to Steve at 10 o'clock at night, trying to figure out where, you know, talking back and forth with the teams to figure out where the next search would be, because it is different in Staten Island from Brooklyn. I mean, Brooklyn, they have more of a grid in a lot of areas, and there is more of woods and forest and stuff like that. So there are those examples that are really great.
One thing that's important in a crisis, in a catastrophe, in an emergency, is resource management, where to send it, where not to send it.
Absolutely.
So you should have brought your communications guy here. You guys, I think, have a pretty good communications setup within yourself for Staten Island, and then dealing with the rest of the city. I know you guys have a lot of radios and stuff.
Yes.
So talk to me about that. That's interesting.
We have a couple of different redundant type of communication forms.
Redundancy, that's important. 9/11, everybody's cell phones went down, except the Nextel clicker.
Correct.
Okay.
We have about 38 ham radio operators on the team. As you know, ham radio operators are one of the most essential communication during 9/11.
Wow.
A lot of the communication was out, but your ham radio operators were your connect.
We had that. I didn't think we had that many hams on Staten Island. You got that many on the team?
Yeah. And that was one of the directions that we went in to make sure that we had that redundancy of communication.
Wow.
Once you lose your cell phone, at least ham is available. But then on your cell phone, there's an app called Zello, and that's a free app So we have, that's like a push to talk, the old Nextel's push to talk. So that's a free app that we utilize as well.
All right, I got a technical question. So is that available like on any type of phone, like that Apple phone or Android phone or whatever the heck
Yes,
they are?
absolutely. Yes.
Okay, I'm technology.
So we're trying to develop a more expansive redundancy in communication now.
Yes.
That's our goal this year. We have an antenna on our emergency operations trailer. We're looking to put a mobile repeater out just for a is it
That sounds
GM?
tough for radios.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
GMRS?
Yeah, we're looking to put out a GMRS repeater. So that's in the works. It's in its baby stages. We're crawling right now, but you know, one of our biggest things is funding.
Hey,
so,
got any ham radio people out there that know whatever a GMRS thing is?
yeah, come on in.
And help with that.
Yeah, and if you just want to volunteer with that, you really don't have to be part of the team. If
Yes,
you don't want to be,
yeah.
just come on in and give us a hand with that. But I did want to say that the CERT program is, you don't have to, when you get your training, it is not for you to respond to a situation. It's for you to react to that situation. What do I do to keep people safe? What is my purpose here? How can I cordon off an area where a tree limb has fallen down, or where a wire has come, or even a traffic accident? How can I cordon that off to make sure that
Safely.
right,
Safely for yourself and others.
correct, to make sure that the public is kept at a safe distance and that you're not impeding the movement of the first responders when they get there. First responders are extremely reliant on communications as they are approaching a situation. Everybody thinks that, you know, when firemen and PD get there, they just run to everything, but they don't. They stop and they look, and they think that that's a bad thing, but it's not. That is a scene size up. That's for their safety. So if they have that information coming to a particular incident, that makes it that much easier for them to respond to it. Now, if it's going to be your regular person that's going to call up and say, "Hey, listen, this is what's going on," when I do classes, that is information. Okay, you have to take that information and turn that into intelligence, because intelligence is actionable. That means I can respond because I know that the person that gave me that information has been trained. They know what they're talking about. The regular guy on the street, you know, okay, thank you for the information. I'm not going to put too much credence in it. I still have to figure out what's going on. But when you get it from a trained CERT member, okay, it's a little bit different. However, PD and fire have to know that you are a trained CERT member. They've worked with you before. You're not exchanging your business card at a disaster. You've met with them before. You interact with them before. They let you know where the gap in their coverage can be that you can fill to help them out. So it's a long process, and like I said, we've been doing this here for 15 years, and we're starting to come around to the point where we know the gaps where we can help fill in and how to give them proper information.
But I can back you up on that, too. You're talking generally, and, you know, without mentioning names, we have a friend, a CERT team member from Ocean Breeze, and then I always get upset about Sandy. Yeah. But the water's coming in, and the fire department actually depended upon one of you guys to give them knowledge about the different houses, and some people passed anyway. And ultimately, they even had tapes. The fire engines, you could hear the captain, the lieutenant saying, "We got to get out, got to get out. We're going to lose the rig. We're going to lose our men."
Right.
But they actually depended upon a CERT team member for neighborhood knowledge and helped save people with ropes and stuff and a freaking fire truck while the water was coming in. And then they actually had to retreat, which is pretty freaking amazing. On Capodanno and Seaview Avenue, they actually had to retreat. So, you know, that CERT team member was able to help his neighborhood and himself and the firemen because of the training and relationship that he had built up. Like you say, you have a relationship for the missing persons, where they know that you're not some, I don't know, some volunteer nut job or something. You're not the pyromaniac that set the fire to watch the fire. You're actually there to help, too. So.
We're not just that spontaneous volunteer. We're a trained group of spontaneous.
Yes, you are a good set of eyes and ears that they can give credibility to. and
Absolutely.
actionable intelligence.
Correct.
Rather than incredible intelligence.
Right.
Again, time's winding down. This May, when, where, how?
Well, I'll let Joe get into that, but we need for you to sign up long before May. So
okay.
recruitment is now.
So as soon as you see the show, sign up for me.
Right. Get out, get on the internet, either visit the EM site. I'm so used to saying OEM, it's been a long time.
Yeah.
So as soon as, when you get onto the EM site, or you can use my phone, call me directly. You can use my email, get in touch with me directly, and I will point you in the right direction so that you can sign up and take those classes so that you can be part of the best CERT team in New York City.
You can't say that. We'll let Steve say that. Joe didn't say that.
One other thing, I believe it's available on 311. If
Yes.
you dial 311, they will direct you to
The sign
CERT
up
program.
stuff?
Yes.
Okay. So that's a good one. Nice central number, 311, for training
Simple.
for New York City CERT, and ultimately join up with the Staten Island CERT team. A few more minutes to go. A touching story. Come on, Ed. Give me a touching story.
Christmas shopping. Me and the wife were doing Christmas shopping, and on the way home, we happened upon a all-hands fire in a private dwelling. I went up to the scene. I know a couple of lieutenants and stuff, so I come up to the scene, and I realized that there's a woman, her daughter, who's 7 years old, and a 10-month-old baby in the car right in front of the burning house. It was their house that was burning. Okay, took it upon myself to get them out of there, got them into my vehicle, kept them warm, went up to FD, explained the situation, what I had, and went on and got things taken care of. They got an ambulance there, treated them, and that was a very good feeling, okay? But you don't do that without knowing what to do. Without knowing what to do. My wife was there
Well,
with
some
me.
people might not have noticed that they were
Exactly.
even there.
And this is part of the CERT program. All right. It's the awareness. It's the size up or situational awareness. Okay. But this is what you're going to learn. This is what you're going to learn to see things that the ordinary person's not going to see. Right, and become part of the best CERT team in the city of New York. Right?
You're going to get him in trouble.
Absolutely.
All the CERT teams are excellent, but we are from Staten Island. So.
Right. I just want to let a couple of folks know that what we do is just not only that. I mean, we do feel good stuff during the months. We do races on Staten Island for racer safety. We do the Staten Island the marathon. And then we do the bike tour, and then we do the 5-borough bike tour. We get out to local businesses and establishments that are doing these things. They reach out to us for runner safety, basic first aid, traffic control. So we've got one coming up right now in High Rock Park, which is the Cold Feet Challenge. I'm sorry, not High Rock Park, Lotterette, which is the Cold Feet Challenge that's through New York City Park. So we'll be there helping with runner safety. So there's a lot more than just getting out there and training and not utilizing everything. There's the camaraderie, and you get to use a lot of those skills when we go out and help the regular folks.
Hi, I'm Dr. Vic Dolan, and I know that the best way to attain and maintain your good health is naturally through diet, lifestyle, exercise, education, and information. And that's what this show is all about, good health naturally. Today we're going to talk about preparation in today's upset world. And ever since September 11th here in New York, there's been a program called CERT, Certified Emergency Response Team. And today's show is going to be about the Port Richmond CERT team. I believe, Staten Island's only CERT team.
Correct.
Serves all of Staten Island. We will give you phone numbers, emails. You can Google Port Richmond CERT or the Staten Island CERT team for email addresses, for websites, for Staten Island Advance articles that have appeared through the many years that you guys have been in existence. So we're going to start right on my left with Big Steve, and he's going to introduce himself and his position with the Staten Island CERT team. Steve?
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it. My name's Steve Clohessy, and I am the team chief of the Port Richmond Community Emergency Response Team here on Staten Island. We've been on Staten Island about 15 years now, and we have a pretty active team. But I guess before we get into that, we'll finish up with the introductions.
Go to your left. Your left-hand man, Ed.
Hi, my name's Ed Arale. I'm a Liaison Officer with Port Richmond CERT Team.
Hi, I'm Joe Pupello. I'm with New York City Emergency Management. We're the managing agency that oversees the CERT program, both in Staten Island and throughout the 5 boroughs.
I'll put you on the spot right away. How is the Staten Island, well, how is the Port Richmond CERT? They seem, from the advance, from the local involvement, they seem to be very active.
Very active. They're probably one of our strongest teams. As Steve and Ed both said, they're around pretty much from the inception of the program, even at Emergency Management. Some of them were trained before the city actually took on that managing role. So yeah, they're a great team. They're out in the community. So.
Ed, you say you've been there since the inception. Do you have a lot of founders still running around?
Steve, me.
Okay.
On Staten Island.
Yes, yes. No, well,
Okay.
faces change.
There's maybe 5 left on the team
Okay.
that started
And it's all
originally.
volunteer,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
So people come and go. People retire to Florida or North Carolina or wherever. And people sometimes find it hard to volunteer because everybody's working for a living so that they can afford to volunteer for
Right.
things like this. Steve, tell us about the team. What is CERT? What does Community Emergency Response Team mean?
Well, basically, it's a preparation, preparedness, outreach program for the people on Staten Island or anywhere. CERT is nationwide, and the main objective is to give voice to preparedness, disaster preparedness, how keep your family engaged, how to prepare for disasters, what you need to do, where you need to go, and how you can help each other. So it's a me, we, they. So help me first, and I'll help we, meaning the family, and then they. After you take care of yourself and your family, then you go out and help the community. So, I mean, we're a pretty diverse group. We have a great amount of talent and resources on the team. And like you said, people still work. So there are enough retirees on the program that we can probably put a couple of folks out immediately. But then after that, we have to do a call down to see who's available. And that's kind of like how we've been rolling. There's no force involved with it. And we do stress the need for commitment to the team because that's how we have to present ourselves to our first responders, because our augmentation to our first responders is now secondary to the presentation or the delivery of the message of preparedness.
A long time ago, after September 11th, I was in the first or second CERT class that New York City gave. I don't remember if it was New York City or FEMA back then. Must have been, September 11th, 2001. It must have been 2002. And I remember taking the class and going to certain meetings, and you guys had a guy, he had to be 85 years old, a man by the name of Herb. And he was on the team for a while, and what a nice guy he was. Retiree, volunteering his time, and I don't know if you or Ed can speak to the fact, you don't have to be young and climbing mountains and rappelling down to rescue somebody. You could be a typist, you could be a mechanic to work on, you guys have vehicles?
Absolutely.
It could be anything and volunteer time for the group. You are a volunteer group and need even bookkeepers or whatever.
And so we have a position for anybody and everybody on that team. Non-discriminatory. What you bring a certain talent, maybe we can utilize that talent on the team. We had an 85-year-old nurse with us, and she would get out into the woods and run circles around people. We couldn't control her, meaning, if she went in the woods, we were like, come back. You gotta keep coming back.
Put a GPS on her.
Pretty much. I mean, we asked her to get into the medical aspect of it, and she would kind of tertiarily touch into that, but she wanted to be in the woods. So don't think that just because you have a limitation that there's no place for you. That's absolutely incorrect. We have a spot for everybody.
I'll now go to Ed. What is your youngest member? Do you know? You don't have to be exact. 20s, 30s? Teenagers?
20s.
Yes?
Late 20s.
Yeah.
We don't get into the teenagers because that's another...
Could be a liability.
That's part of it, but I think OEM is starting to come in with something geared towards the teenagers to give them a little insight into the CERT program. Basically, anybody can become a CERT member. Okay. The issue is giving the time. In this day and age, who has the time?
Yes.
All right. One of the things is if we get as many people as possible, right now our roster is about 60 some odd people.
Just under 60.
Okay. Those 60 can handle X amount.
Yes.
Okay, because
There's
this
only
one's
so
on
many hours to give.
This one's on vacation. This one's working. All right. So if you took that number and raised it to 100, where we were at one point, we would be able to get 20, 30 people out for a missing person search.
Yes.
Okay. And that's what we're trying to attain. We're trying to get people to join, okay, go through the training and give some type of commitment. All right. And because we have commitments.
Yes.
The way we become with PD and FD, all right, I get a text message at 10:30 at night. We have a missing person. No other team gets that. Okay, this is how we've brought this team to that point, all right? And to do it, we need more members.
Yes.
And that's the hard part. The hard part is getting the members. We don't need you every single week, all right? Even though coming to the training courses, the meetings where you get the training will benefit you tremendously, okay? But if you could come to 2 meetings and do a couple of events, all right? Do the outreach program that we have, okay? That would be for the older retirees, all right? And not only to the older retirees, younger guys, too, people can do it. But the thing is to get the maximum amount of people that we can on the team, okay, to be able to answer that phone call and say, okay, I know I got a roster of 10 people I could get out there now into the field.
Yes.
All right, with this particular person, Steve or Matt,
As a team leader.
that will be there,
Yes.
Yeah.
okay?
I mean, this kind of stuff builds the camaraderie of the team. And it's just like all the folks that have been working. When you're in a workplace for X amount of
Yes,
years,
yeah.
you become family, quote unquote,
Yes.
okay? So that's what we try to do with the CERT team, is make you part of the family. We meet every week, and the reason we meet every week is so that if you miss a meeting or 2 or 3 during the month, on the 4th meeting, you're caught up. So
Yes.
if we didn't meet every 3 months, you miss a meeting, you're 6 months behind. We try to have a training. We try to do refreshers on the original CERT training that's offered by New York City Emergency Management, which is their 10-week program. And then we kind of expound on that. We'll take you to different levels of the different disciplines that are taught. Okay, EM brings you through a pretty concise 10-week course. But then when we get you on our team, we kind of just keep reinforcing that and make sure that If I don't see you for 3 months and then we go out on a missing person search, I'm not going to be quite comfortable that you have all that training that need. And it's nothing against you. It's just that our safety as a team depends on we know the same amount of stuff, you know. So it's nothing personal. So if you want to go out on a missing person search, we have limited resources because we know the folks that have been around and are able to conduct. Even if I had to send you out on your own to do something, at least I know that you have that training and that skill, the skill set, so that you can, you know, go out and take care of this. We have retired PD and FD, we have former military, we have a lot of different professions out here that just want to keep giving. Folks that have volunteered before and want to keep volunteering. And that's what we're all about. I mean, that's what this community is about. Getting people from Staten Island to join this team is paramount. It is, we need people that know Staten Island. We need people that know people when they get to someplace.
Yes.
So the familiarity on a response is
Well, we're already 10, almost 15 minutes into the show, and we haven't given contact numbers. And that's one of the goals of this show, is to recruit people for the Staten Island CERT team, the Port Richmond CERT team here on Staten Island. Who could I call about joining the team?
Well, you can. Your initial contact about joining the team would be me as the team chief, and my contact number is 917-597-2718. However, before you can actually become a member of the Staten Island or Port Richmond CERT team, they have to contact the Office of Emergency Management or Emergency Management, and they are online.
NYC.gov/CERT.
Okay.
CERT.
And preferably go online rather than a phone number or
Yeah,
something
so you
like
could
that.
also contact us through CERT@oem.nyc.gov.
And I guess, as everything we could search, we could Google search.
could Google it.
New York City government CERT team. Now, the CERT is governed by the city or the state?
So as Steve mentioned before, the CERT program was initially a national program.
Yes.
It's a FEMA program. In New York City, though, it's managed by New York City Emergency Management Department. 15 years ago, when we brought it to New York City, it's tailored to New York City.
Right.
Whereas the FEMA training is different because different parts of the country have different needs, and
Right.
a lot of places it's closer to maybe a volunteer firefighter or something like that. Because we have NYPD and FDNY, it's slightly different. One of the main goals is to have people ready to support their first responders. Right. And with that, it was developed and actually instructed by active FDNY and NYPD Auxiliary. So we tailored it specifically for New York City. People in the Midwest aren't going to necessarily have to know about what to do in a high-rise building if there's a fire. So things like that. So it's specifically tailored. So in New York City, we are the managing agency. We work very closely, especially with the Port Richmond CERT team. But in all 5 boroughs, we have this training. So even if you're not, even if say you live in Staten Island but you work in Manhattan, we offer different training locations throughout the 5 boroughs throughout the year. So you can actually take a training in Manhattan or Brooklyn or Queens or the Bronx, even if you are a Staten Island resident, and then you could bring it back, and that's when we would put you in touch with Steve and Ed and take it from there.
So Steve and Ed mentioned a 10-week training course.
Yes.
So those 10 weeks are available in all 5 boroughs?
Yeah, so what we do is throughout the year we have a schedule. So the next training will actually be in May, June. It's actually a 10-session. It's 2 nights a week for 5-6 weeks, depending on holidays and how that works out. So we have May, June is actually going to be in Staten Island, and there's going to be one in Brooklyn. And then we have another one in October, November. That'll be in Brooklyn, Manhattan. And then again, currently we're in the cycle in Bronx and Queens. We're in the middle of the cycle.
I remember 100 years ago when I took the CERT training, I don't remember where we went. I think we went up to the city. And part of the training was safety in the subways, like knowing where to stand when the train is coming, where there are safe little alcoves to hide, and when you shouldn't be near the tracks and stuff like that. So that's part of our New York City training. But then as a subdivision of that, a hard question, do you have different training for like Staten Island versus Queens versus the Bronx versus...
So that's kind of what Steve was talking about. So when you come to the Staten Island team, there are certain things that they look at. So search and rescue is a focus of their team. So we don't let them, but they have become experts, team members, on search and rescue. So they actually do specific trainings for that. Same thing with missing persons. As an agency, we have kind of built out more to do with missing persons because it is something that the CERT members and the teams have become more involved with throughout the city. But Port Richmond CERT, they've been doing that a very long time. So a lot of times we look to them even just to guide us as to where the rest of the program should go.
Well, three of you have mentioned in particular search and rescue. And I guess, we're not in the wilderness of Montana. So are there specific steps that people should go through in an urban or suburban search and rescue? Would I knock on local doors? I'll throw it to you and then come down the aisle here.
Well, so when we focus on it, there's a way to do it. NYPD is generally the lead on missing persons. We don't do anything without their guidance, obviously. It's the same thing in Staten Island. As Ed mentioned, he'll get a phone call or a text or something from the local precinct, and that'll kind of initiate it. So NYPD, they create the missing persons, paperwork.
For kids, it's Amber Alert.
Amber Alert, Silver Alert for seniors.
Okay.
But basically, they put that out there. They create all documentation, and then they reach out to many different places, CERT being a very important one, specifically on Staten Island. I know Brooklyn is very strong with that, Manhattan as well. But there's some special cases. So, in Staten Island, where they differ is that there are much more wooded areas.
Right.
Yes. So on Staten Island, we have urban, suburban, and we have swamps, and we have hills and dales and trees, too.
Correct.
So have you guys developed or adapted national CERT training for our different geography and environs, from the biggest dump in the world, now a park,
right,
to the swamps on, the beaches?
Well, that's a really good question. But with that, Staten Island is the borough of parks. And that is where the Port Richmond CERT team decided to make its little niche, so that because of one of the nearest search and rescue teams is probably 3 hours away. We took training through the Department of Environmental Conservation, the state rangers. Took it's what's called a green card class. We try and get one of those a year so that our folks can be trained up at a basic level for wilderness search and rescue.
Yeah, I said rappelling down a mountain. You actually don't do that now.
No, not really. There are some of us that are still young enough that can, if they had that kind of training, that we would do that. But we also have taken NASAR, which is the National Association of Search and Rescue, that training as well. There's a couple of nuances with the different search groups. Some are recognized in New York, some are not. And New York is not recognized outside of New York. So in order for us to kind of cross our boundaries as an independent search and rescue team, we have to take those kinds of training. And that has kind of filtered down to the CERT teams in New York, that they are now taking the basic training from DEC so that they're involved. So we work very, very closely. We're almost like the litmus test for a couple of things. And if it works out for us and they kind of work on it and they look at it and it's kind of tweaked, and then they pass that along. It's like the subway training.
Yes.
It's like track safety.
Well, I was sitting there and I'm saying, what am I doing here? Because I'll never see the subway.
Yeah, so
I live and work on Staten Island, so I don't take the subway too often. But, it was appreciated that, each borough has its own identity.
Right. Well, awareness level training in any topic is always a plus. Okay, and then you get the folks that are really interested in something, and then they follow it through. So we have one of our folks that kind of adopted our radios. Knew nothing about radios when he first started, and now he's just gangbusters involved with that, and he's my go-to. Well, there's actually two of them, but he's my go-to guy to find out about radios. So, we try and instill responsibilities. We follow the incident command system. If nobody's, if they're not familiar with that, you can look that up online.
You can take it online.
Yes. Yep. Yes, those are FEMA trainings, and you can just go to training.fema.gov and go on for your IS trainings, and you can do them online and get a certificate from FEMA as well. So we follow that. Eddie is our liaison officer, but we also have a safety officer. We also have a public information officer. I have a deputy chief. That's Matt Vobis. He's an essential part. He doubles as my operations chief. I do the planning part of it. Then we have our medical end of it. So we try and follow that ICS, and that is what helped us get recognized as a viable asset to our first responders, because New York City's got 75,000 first responders between PD, fire. I mean, I don't use that number as inaccurate, but we've got a lot, okay? And as Joe was saying before, the CERT program, even though it is federal, it's basically a guide on what to do. I teach some classes throughout the United States, and CERT teams are utilized different ways. Some people find their niche as a religious-based or a faith-based CERT group, and that's what they do. And some of them do basically like mounted CERT. They'll go out and do mounted. So they develop or they tailor it to the need of the community. While they still round out with all the CERT trainings, they focus on one. So that's the beautiful part about CERT, the CERT program, and how New York City EM has tailored the CERT program for specifically New York City. Okay, and then as you go out to your outer boroughs, Brooklyn, Queens, Bronx, Manhattan may have their own little specialized training, because this is their niche. This is what they found as a need in their particular borough, and as Staten Island did with the wilderness search and rescue on Staten Island. So you can expand and contract on this as you need.
Well, if I remember right, and this is prehistoric knowledge or education. If I disappear, it'll be a silver alert, Mm-hmm. But I think I remember at the CERT training that we had, that CERT, even at the federal level, actually all started in California.
Correct.
That was the first CERT teams, because people have earthquakes and fires out there. So the locales began to train themselves almost like a volunteer fireman or volunteer ambulance.
Right.
And then I guess it grew out of California to national down to us. Now, a few times you've said New York City EM, and this is prehistoric too. Are you guys now NYCEM? And you used to be OEM.
Yes.
Are you still OEM, or you're just EM?
We
now?
are Emergency Management Department, technically.
Okay.
The reason,
so no more OEM.
The reason that we are no longer the Office of Emergency Management, because Office, it was kind of a holdover from years ago.
Yes.
I'm
old.
Well, even when I started 10 years ago, it was OEM. But departments have commissioners, and they're not. Initially, it was part of the mayor's office, emergency management. So we lost the office to show that that we are a department. We are our own agency. We're not part of the mayor's office or any other office. So that's why we dropped that. So we are the emergency management department.
Let's talk about the structure of those 10 weeks training. Yeah. How much does it cost me to take your training?
$0.
$0. Okay. And those 10 weeks, how is it structured again? Saturday, Sunday? Or
No, so what we have currently is it's 2 nights a week.
Okay.
It's 10 sessions, so it works out to about 5-6 weeks, depending on holidays and availability of space. So it's completely free. We put it out there, just as you mentioned, with subway training and stuff. If you live in New York City your entire life, there are things that you have no idea are going on in the subway around you.
Thank God. No.
in some cases, but there are things that could save your life in case of an emergency.
Yeah.
So we really, the whole point, I mean, the goal of New York City Emergency Management is to prepare the public, you know, to disseminate information that people understand what's going on around you so you're informed. That's why we have the Ready New York program, which is our emergency preparedness program. We have brochures, we have guides. They come in 23 languages. You could download them, you could call 311, you could request them, and we will send them to you, again, free of charge. We give presentations. That's another thing that CERT really helps with. A lot of CERT members are trained to give those presentations, and they go out to the public, to their community, and they teach people. They teach people what to do, make a go bag, a stay-at-home kit, you know, what to do if you have to evacuate, things like that. So the goal really is to educate the public. So if nothing else, at the end of the day, you take this CERT training, there's information in there that could help you as an individual and your family, if nothing else.
So you can join a CERT team to be unselfish, but also the training is helpful for your own selfish goals of being prepared for a disaster or catastrophe. We'll have to do another show talk about Sandy. But one of the things I remember from my prehistoric training, at that time, I believe they presented New York City has 200 different dialects and languages, which is pretty amazing. So you need neighborhood help to interact with people from whatever location they are, and even within a language, like the Chinese, Asians have 1 million different dialects, and it's difficult for one to contact, to speak with another.
There's only so much we can do as an agency, and that's why these volunteers, the CERT volunteers, are so helpful because it's their community. They know it better than anybody. We also, another thing is the Notify NYC program. You could become you could receive texts and emails and stuff like that if something's going on in your community. It's very good if you just download the app and Notify NYC. It's another way that we could inform the public.
Some contact information as we wind down again. Give numbers or whatever. Give it again. We're looking for recruits for the Staten Island CERT team. Very worthwhile for yourself and for your community.
Yeah, we are actively recruiting on Staten Island to get at least 30 members into the training class. So the contact, we have a website at sicert.org. We also have an email, which is portrichcert, so PORTRICH CERT@gmail.com. And then again, my phone number at 917-597-2718. Anyway, if you get in touch with me, I will steer you towards EM so that you can start the process and we can get you vetted into the program.
Thank you, gentlemen, for coming down. Staten Island Community Television, thank you for publicizing this worthwhile group and worthwhile knowledge everyone should have in the event of that catastrophe, like something like Sandy that happened that we never, or 9/11 that we never thought would happen in New York. Thank you for watching Staten Island.